Good afternoon. Welcome to our weekly class on Ethics of the Fathers. We're still in chapter 2, Mishnah 12, in middle of the Mishnah. And this is Rabbi Yossi speaking. Rabbi Yossi, who we said was described by his teacher as a chassid, someone who goes beyond the letter of the law, goes within the letter of the law, captures the spirit, not just the letter. And he said three teachings. So we covered the first one about how your friend's property should be as dear to you as your own. But the second one seems to be totally unrelated. Prepare yourself for the study of Torah, for it does not come to you as an inheritance. We touched on this briefly, but I want to go into it in more depth. So the simple meaning of this statement is that Torah is not something that you just pick up without any effort. It's not an inheritance. As the commentaries explain, just because your father, your grandfather, your great-grandfather were great Torah scholars, and there is a passage in the Talmud that says that when Torah stays in the family for 2 or 3 generations, it's guaranteed that it will always remain there. Having said that, it doesn't mean it's going to remain there by us being passive. You have to do something in order to absorb the Torah. That's the simple meaning. But then the question is, we know, and we say this in our prayers, it's a child's first introduction to Torah, the verse that says, Torah tziva lanu Moshe. Torah was commanded to us by Moses, Morashah, as an inheritance. So the Torah makes it very clear that Torah is an inheritance. So what does it mean that Torah is not an inheritance? It seems to be an open contradiction, and then, of course, Ethics of the Fathers cannot contradict the Torah. You could have differences of opinion within Ethics of the Fathers. You have different opinions about things. Disagreements in Jewish tradition is not a novel thing. That's the basis of Judaism, arguing about trying to better understand the words of the Torah, but you can't contradict, you can't argue with a biblical verse that says Torah is an inheritance. So, some commentaries say that it means that it's not a private inheritance. You can't say it's mine and not yours. It's collective, it belongs to everyone. That's one approach. But there's another approach. And that approach is, the Talmud says that the Torah, the Hebrew word for inheritance, as in the verse, Torah was commanded to us by Moses as an inheritance, the word Morashah is related to another Hebrew word, which is Me'urasa, which means betrothed. Let me just mute everyone here. The Torah is betrothed to us. It belongs to us like a couple are married. One spouse belongs to the other one. We and the Torah are married to each other. So it doesn't mean that it's an inheritance that we receive the Torah automatically, but it's a love affair. Torah is something that we're married to. It's married to us.
What's the relationship between Torah and Ketubah?
You mean a literary relationship?
Well, is there a relationship between the relationship of Jewish people and Torah and?
Yes, Torah could be compared to a marriage contract, and that's why when Moses comes down from the mountain and he sees the people worshiping the golden calf, what does he do? He shatters the tablets. Why did he shatter the tablets? Out of rage? He lost control? No. It was deliberate on his part, because what the people did was a tantamount to adultery. When you worship an idol, you're compromising your relationship with God. But that's only true if the relationship was there, if they were really considered legally married. By breaking the marriage contract, that's what the tablets represented, the people were not married. And in that case, there was no adultery. It wasn't a nice thing to do, but it was not adultery, so they didn't deserve to be destroyed. That was Moses' way of saving the people. So that is true, is that the Torah is like the marriage contract. So when the Torah says that it's an inheritance, it doesn't mean inheritance that it just is automatic, you just get the Torah without any effort. It means that you are married to the Torah. It's a relationship. And every relationship requires cultivation. You can't just have a relationship being passive in that relationship, otherwise it's not a relationship. That's another approach. It's interesting, a little bit connected, that when Moses was being attacked by his cousin Korach, who claimed that, why do you exalt yourself over everyone else? Everyone is holy. We all heard God speak at Mount Sinai. So there's a midrash that says, I think it's in the Talmud, that says that the people were accusing Moses of adultery. And that's a little bit wild. Of all sins, of all faults, that's one thing that certainly Moses could not be considered guilty of. In fact, he was celibate after the age of 80. He separated from, after the Torah was given at Mount Sinai, God told him to be separated from his wife. And that's why Miriam spoke disparagingly about Moses, because she felt that that was not right. But then that's another subject. So what does it mean that they accuse Moses of adultery? So I think one way of understanding that is, that we are all married to the Torah. But if Moses considers himself to be separate from the collective, from the people, he's above them, so his relationship to the Torah is akin to adultery. There's one way of stopping it. You just throw it against the wall.
You put it on vibrate, and that'll do it.
So,
Is that a Torah Zara also? Being betrothed to the phone?
Go to the phone.
So one thing is clear, that Moses did not consider himself to be separated from the Jewish people, but that was Korach's argument, and he said that's tantamount to adultery. If you're not part of the collective, then God is married through the Torah to this collective, and you're above them, you're beyond them, then you're guilty of adultery. You have no right to have any connection to the Torah. Anyhow, so when it says that Torah is an inheritance, this interpretation understands it to mean that it's a relationship, it's like a marriage. And the Torah is not just a tradition, but it's something that's a relationship. Just like when you have a relationship with another person, it's not a tradition because your grandparents had a relationship. That's why you'll have a relationship. You have to cultivate your own relationship. You can't say because my father and my wife's father had a relationship, that's why I have to get married to my wife. It doesn't hurt, but that's not what a relationship is all about. But there's a deeper meaning when we say that Torah is an inheritance, in spite of the fact that this Mishnah says it's not an inheritance. Because if we really examine the different expressions used in the Torah, in the Talmud, and other places, there are three different ways that Torah is described in terms of how we receive the Torah. On one hand, we just said it's referred to as an inheritance. It's also referred to as a purchase. The Torah was sold to us. And it's also referred to as a gift. So there's no contradiction. There are three different dimensions of Torah. The first dimension is that it's an inheritance. What is so unique about inheritance? If a person passes away and leaves a baby of 1 day old, That's the only relative. That baby inherits the estate of the father in toto. You don't need a will for that. It's automatic. You don't have to be an adult. You don't have to be capable of understanding what the inheritance is about. Just by virtue of the fact that you are an heir, and the Torah describes who's considered an heir, you automatically receive that inheritance. I don't know if that's true in American law. I don't think it's true in American law. If someone dies and leaves $1 million and there's only one child, that child, there's no will or anything like that, the state will take away who knows how much of it. But in Jewish law, you automatically inherit. What does that tell us about Torah? That we have a relationship with Torah that everyone inherits, no matter what level of learning, what level of understanding, what level of commitment, what level of appreciation for it. Just by virtue of us being the heir of Torah, we automatically acquire the whole Torah. It's all ours. And that is what we celebrate on Simchat Torah. Simchat Torah is the happiest day in the Jewish calendar. I know people will tell me maybe Purim is happier. Let them fight it out. Simchat Torah, Purim. I'll drink to both of them. So, what is the celebration of Simchat Torah? What do we do? How do we celebrate it? We take the Torah out of the ark and we dance with it. Do we open the Torah? No. I know there are some non-Orthodox congregations that make a spectacle of opening the whole Torah, which is very disrespectful, to have everyone hold a part of the Torah and just show it to everyone. We do show the Torah when we read the Torah, but not just as a spectacle. But at any rate, I don't want to belabor that point. The Torah is covered with its mantle, and we dance with it. But shouldn't we just open the Torah and read it and study it? The answer is yes, we do that as well, but that's not the point of Simchat Torah. The point of Simchat Torah is to demonstrate that the Torah belongs to us regardless of how much of the Torah we could read or understand. It's something that belongs to us. The story is told of Rabbi Levi-Yitzchak of Berditchev, the famous Hasidic master, who would always look for ways of eliciting pearls of wisdom from simple people. Because sometimes the simplest people have the most beautiful sayings and pearls of wisdom that come from sincerity. It's not something contrived. It's not something based on their brilliant powers of reasoning. It's something that comes from their heart and from their soul. So on Simchat Torah, he sees a simple Jew who was basically illiterate, certainly didn't know any Torah, dancing fervently with the Torah. So he says to him, "Why are you dancing? Do you know Torah? No. Do you study Torah? I'm sorry, but I don't really have the ability to study. So why are you dancing?" He said, "If my brother gets married, do I not dance on his wedding?" That's what Rabbi Levi Yitzchak elicited from him, that dancing in Simchat Torah is dancing about your brother's wedding. But the Rebbe would always add to that, it's much more than that. It's dancing at your own wedding. Because the Torah belongs to you, not just because your brother has it and you're a brother, so if your brother is celebrating, why not join him? No, it's your personal inheritance, no less so than the greatest scholar, than Moses himself. That's one level of Torah that we all inherit, regardless of our level of observance, regardless of our level of knowledge. But it's not revealed necessarily, it's embedded in us. It's something that is there in our embedded in our soul, whether we appreciate it or not. I told the story many times that there was a chassid from Russia who moved to America, and as was the custom of many people, and they crossed the ocean, somehow they lost their devotion to religion, to Judaism. Sometimes it was because they had no choice. They couldn't earn a living unless they worked on Shabbos and so on. Some of them because they grew up without a Jewish education, or they got a bad Jewish education that turned them off. And some of them did it deliberately. They felt that America is is a free land, free from observance, free from any obligations. But whatever the reason was, many Jews left Europe at the turn of the century, in the early 1900s, and they came to America, and they very quickly assimilated. And there was and this is in the 1940s, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, knew of a certain Jew who was a follower of his father and had become very assimilated, lived in Chicago. So the previous Rebbe sends one of his leading Hasidim, a very prominent rabbi, I know his name, Rabbi Shmuel Levitin, who was my father's teacher and my teacher as well. When he was my teacher, he was in his mid to upper 80s, and it was very hard to understand him. And he was getting old and weak. So he told the Rebbe he wants to retire from teaching. He would only teach one class a week at that point. I don't know, half hour, maybe a 45-minute class. And he just says, I don't have the strength to teach anymore. So the Rebbe says, you're teaching once a week? Okay, so from now on, teach twice a week. And he did. When people heard that the Rebbe told him to teach, instead of having just 5 students sitting around him, barely being able to understand anything he said, the place was crowded. Everyone wanted to be near him. But that's an aside. So the previous Rebbe in the early 1940s sends this Rabbi Levitin to Chicago to warm this Jew up, to get him back into the fold. So he comes to Chicago. I guess he called him beforehand to tell him that he's coming, and the man was convinced that the rabbi came to raise funds, which was very much the custom of rabbis in large cities. They would go around the country raising funds for their schools, for their shuls. And he comes to Chicago, and he stays in this man's house, and the rabbi doesn't go anywhere to do any fundraising. He's just in the house and engaging this man in conversation and warming him up. And after 2 weeks, the man is really warmed up and has changed his whole attitude and became closer back to Judaism. And at the end of 2 weeks, Rabbi Levitin says, okay, I'm leaving now. So the man said, what do you mean you're leaving? I thought you came to raise funds and you're here 2 weeks and you didn't even leave the house. I love the time you spent with me and I appreciate it, but what did you come for? So he said that in the olden days, not every town could afford a scribe. Why do they need a scribe? Among the different things that a scribe does is to check the Torah scrolls to make sure there are no mistakes, that no letter is erased or no letter touches another letter. And if you were a large city, you had a scribe that lived there and he would be employed to check the Torahs of the community. But in small towns, they couldn't afford to have their own scribe. So there were these itinerant scribes that would travel from one town to another and check the Torah scrolls. And if he would see a Torah scroll where a letter was faded, he would fix it. So he said the same way, every Jew has a letter in the Torah. Every Jew has a part of Torah in him or her. It says that the word Yisrael, Israel, is an acronym for Yesh, Shishim, Ribu, Osios, LaTorah. There are 600,000 letters in the Torah. That means the original 600,000 that came out of Egypt and all the offshoots of those 600,000 are all connected. They all have a letter in the Torah. And sometimes a letter could be faded, could fade away. So the Rebbe sent me as a scribe to touch up the letters of the Torah. And obviously referring to this man as someone whose letter in the Torah was faded. And the man was very impressed and everything worked out very well. And he comes back to the Rebbe to report about his success. And he's very proud to tell the Rebbe his beautiful parable that he used about the scribe who touches up letters. And the previous Rebbe said, what you said is nice, but it's incomplete. because our connection to Torah is not just like letters written on parchment, because a letter that's written on parchment or ink written on paper, you could erase. It's not one with the paper, it's not one with the parchment, but it's more like the tablets. In the tablets, the letters, which are letters of the Torah that were engraved in the tablets, you couldn't erase them. Once it's engraved, you can't erase it. The only thing that could happen is it could accumulate dust. And when it accumulates dust, you can't read the letters. All you have to do is not touch up the letters. The letters are intact. You have to just get rid of the dust. That means that every one of us has this close connection to Torah in such a way that you can't erase it. There's no way you could erase it. But it gets dusty, and sometimes you have to just clean off the dust. So that's the first level of Torah, the Torah that is considered an inheritance. But if you just rely on your inheritance, if this one-day-old child who inherits $1 million doesn't know that he inherited $1 million and he grows up not knowing it, then what good is it? He's not availing himself of that opportunity. I always said that there are three kinds of Jews. Forget about Orthodox, conservative, reform. Those are artificial labels. There's the Jew who has treasures and knows about the treasures and utilizes them. Then there's the Jew who knows he has or she has treasures but doesn't take advantage of them. And then there's the Jew who doesn't even know they have the treasure. That's it. But every Jew has the treasure, but what happens if you don't even know you have $1 million in the bank? Someone deposits $1 million in your bank account and you never check your bank account. So what good is it? So you need to go to the next level. The next level is, as it says over here, prepare yourself for the study of Torah. Put effort into it. It's like a sale, a purchase. You want to buy something, you have to pay for it. And depending how much you spend, that's the quality of the object that you're buying. While on the first level of inheritance, we're all equal. Moses and all of us and everyone in between. Why did I say that? I implied that we're on the lowest level. I could speak for myself, okay. But every Jew, regardless of their station in life, has the exact same connection to Torah as Moses, the greatest person. And you can't have more or less. It's all the same. You have it in totality. The second level differs according to your effort. How much money are you willing to spend? You want to buy a car? You can buy a car for how much the cars go these days? For $10,000? And you can buy a car for $1 million. And that's the kind of car you get, with whatever effort you put into it. Everyone is different. Some people have the ability to learn more Torah because they have more time on their hands. Some people have less time, so they spend a little of their time to study Torah. Some people have a much more sharper mind, so they can absorb things more quickly and more deeply. Some are on a more superficial level. That's the second level of Torah, that everyone puts their effort into it. And the outcome, the result, is commensurate with the effort that you put into it.
It's also like the Rebbe and Anasimov person in his work towards a meaningful life pointed to the fact that relationship is not about feeling, it's about action. Relationship and love itself is built through action. And so too with mitzvot, our love of community and God are built through the actions of mitzvot.
Right. It's not, here we're talking about Torah specifically, but it's true about all of Judaism. But here we're talking about the study of Torah. It varies according to the person's potential, according to their effort, according to their investment. That's the second level. Talmud says, if someone comes to you and says, you know what, I didn't work hard, but I got the knowledge, don't believe him. If someone said, the first one says, I didn't work hard and I got the knowledge, don't believe him. Someone said, I worked hard and I didn't get the knowledge, don't believe him. If someone says, I worked hard, I toiled, and I got the knowledge, believe him. And not only do you get the knowledge commensurate with your efforts, The Talmud says, you toil, you will find the knowledge. What does finding mean? What does it finding implies? You're walking down the street and you find $100 bill. You didn't expect it. It's much more than what you anticipated. You don't walk outside expecting to find $100. Same thing as when you toil for the study of Torah, you will not only get what you put into it, you will find a lot more. But that's the nature of toil. Toil gives you more than what you think you put. You know, some people will work hard, and the windfall is much more than what they expected.
According to the effort is the reward. Someone says.
That's another.
But it's the same thing. It's according to the effort is the reward.
No, it's more than that. According to the effort is the reward. It's commensurate. It's equal. You put in $100, you get out something that's worth $100. No, if you put in 100, you'll make 1,000. You'll find it's a find. It's something that you didn't anticipate.
I see it as the reward is given by God. So for saying the same thing.
Okay, well, let's not argue if you agree. Then there's the third level of Torah, the gift of Torah. When we pray on the holiday of Shavuos, the anniversary of the giving of the Torah, we call it Zman, the season, Matan Toratenu, the gift of our Torah. When the blessing on the Torah is recited, we say, "Blessed are you, God, Notein HaTorah," the one who gives us the Torah. It's a gift. It's much more than you even get out of a good investment. A good investment, you make profit, but it's within range of your effort. Here, there's a gift of Torah that is the ultimate, more than anything you could have imagined. And that's something that you have to earn. You can't earn it really. No matter how much you spend, it's going to be infinitely more than what you spend. But even a gift, people don't just give gifts to random people. A person gives a gift to someone because they once did him a favor, they were nice to their children, whatever it is, they did something that made them, put them in a position where someone would want to gift them something. So that's the third level. We have to earn it on one hand, you have to have done something, but you have to realize that the gift is going to be infinitely more. And that's when we say in our prayers, we ask God to build the holy temple and give us our share in your Torah. So the Rebbe explains, what does that mean? It means when Mashiach comes, when the Beis HaMikdash will be built, then God will give us a share, our share in His Torah, and the level of Torah from God's perspective. You see, there's Torah that God gives us from His perspective, and it's what we receive from our perspective. When Mashiach will come, we will get the Torah, we will absorb God's perspective. That's the gift, the ultimate gift of Torah. So while God gave us that gift at Sinai, when will we fully appreciate that gift? That'll be in the Messianic age. Another interpretation of the words, prepare yourself for the study of Torah, or as they put it over here, make yourself fit to study Torah. So I think we mentioned this last time. One interpretation is that a person could learn Torah and should learn Torah even if they're not a nice person, even if they're the opposite of nice. Let's not use negative language. Still, they should still study Torah. And the Talmud says because the light in Torah will change them. But that's not how you approach Torah. A person doesn't say, you know what, I'm going to be a scoundrel, I'm going to be a lowlife, I'm going to be an immoral person, and study Torah. No, a person should prepare themselves, refine themselves, and then study Torah. That's why the custom is to study ethics of the fathers in the weeks before Shavuos, before the anniversary of the giving of the Torah, because we want to develop proper morals to be receptive to the Torah. It's like someone's dishing out some drink and you have a dirty cup. It's still going to quench your thirst, but it's not nice. It's not pleasant. The cup is dirty. You first want to wash the cup and then pour the liquid in. So even though you could still drink from a dirty cup, and you should if you're thirsty and you need the water, you need the drink, you have no choice. But that's not the ideal. That's not the way we should do it. Rabbi Chaim of Volozhin, he was the great disciple of the Vilna Gaon, of the Gaon of Vilna. So he has a commentary on Ethics of the Fathers, and he interprets this in another way. He says there are people who cannot study Torah, but they don't have the time, or they don't have the interest, but they value its importance. They really feel it's so important. So what do? They support the study of Torah financially. Actually, that was an agreement between two of the 12 tribes. In Israel, you have the tribe of Zevulun and the tribe of Yissachar. Yissachar were the scholars. Zevulun were the merchants. And they made a pact. We're going to support you. You study Torah, and we will share in get some of the credit for your Torah study. And that's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful relationship where people who can't study will at least get a share of the Torah by financing the study of others. So a person could think that's all they need. They don't have to study the Torah themselves. That's why he says, no, you have to prepare yourself for the study of Torah. That you have to study Torah yourself as well. Don't just rely on getting the quality or the benefits of Torah by supporting Torah. You should study yourself. Now, obviously, not everyone has the time to devote to study of Torah the way others do, but at least have a few moments in the morning, a few moments in the evening to study Torah. Then we go to the next part.
I mean, that's the reason why in Israel it's devoted not to army service, but just that very...
Right, that's a subject we discussed many times, and I don't want to go into it because it's very controversial. I'm not afraid of controversy, but it'll take us away from the subject. But there is a major debate in Israel about thousands of young men who are constantly studying Torah and do not share in the burden of the military. They're not in the army, and most of them don't work. Their wives work for them, or they depend on welfare. So there's a lot of politics about that. But anyhow, the next thing he says, the third teaching of Rabbi Yossi, is let all your actions be for the sake of the name of heaven, or be for the name of heaven, l'shem shamayim. What is this? What is the simple meaning of that? The simple meaning is Torah tells us and commands us how to live our lives. We have 613 commandments, but that's not enough. Everything that we do, even things that are neutral, that are not mandated or not forbidden, should be done for the sake of heaven, for a higher purpose, which means, on a simple level, the Torah doesn't command people to breathe. You don't need a commandment to breathe. It doesn't command you to eat. You don't need a commandment to eat or drink. There's no commandment to sleep. Those are all neutral things. So a person's attitude should be that whatever you're doing, even things that are not mandated, that are not outright commandments, you do them for a higher purpose. Why do you eat? To get strength. Why do you need the strength? In order to study Torah, in order to do a mitzvah. So in that vein, when you do it that way, your eating, which is a neutral exercise, becomes a godly one, becomes a holy one, a heavenly one. Because what you're doing is not for your own enjoyment, your own pleasure, your own satisfaction, your own personal needs, which is fine, But then you're not really serving God for most of your life. Because how much time do we sleep at night? Some people sleep more, some people sleep less. But we sleep, Maimonides says you should sleep 8 hours a night, a third of the day. So it means a third of your life you're not engaged in anything constructive. And the ethics of the Prophet says, no, that's not true. If you go to sleep, so you should have the strength to wake up the next morning and say your prayers and thank God and do a mitzvah and help another person, or whatever the mitzvah may be, that 8-hour sleep is just as holy as the mitzvah that you're going to do later. It acquires the holiness of the action that you're going to do later. Yes?
Another thing that sleep does, aside from giving us energy to do the next day's work, is that it establishes in our memory what we've learned. And so Torah study then becomes part of us because it's part of our memory.
Right. But that's a very good point, and I'll build on that in a moment. But so sleep or eating or anything else that you do that's mundane, that's not spiritual, it's not holy, becomes holy. If two people are engaged in an effort to get closer to God, one of them comes to shul on Yom Kippur and pours out his or her heart and is filled with tremendous spiritual emotion, and they're on a spiritual high, and they're devoted to God. And the other one, the day after Yom Kippur, or the day before Yom Kippur, goes to Tops and looks for some kosher chicken. Who is engaged in a more spiritual act? Who is closer to God? Most people would say, you don't have to answer. Most people would say, obviously, the one who's praying on Yom Kippur is focused on God and is serving God in a very overt manner. And the correct answer to the question is both. One of them is connecting to God through a spiritual experience, through prayer, where the focus is overtly on God. And the other one is walking down the supermarket aisle looking for kosher food because God wants him to keep kosher. That is no less of a holy act and no less connecting yourself to God than the one who prays with profound feeling on Yom Kippur. I'm not trying to belittle praying on Yom Kippur. Some of my best friends pray on Yom Kippur.
It depends on the depth of the covenant.
Let's say it's the deepest you can reach. Let's say it's the Rebbe praying on Yom Kippur, okay? The holiest Jew on the holiest day of the year, or the high priest who went into the Holy of Holies. And a simple Jew is walking down the supermarket aisle and asking the attendant, can you show me where the kosher macaroons are? Macaroons on Yom Kippur.
No, I'm saying in comparison, it's not the activity, it's the depth of covenant within them.
No, they're both just as connected to God.
Then it's the same.
The difference is only in the feeling, and that's important. But in terms of their connectivity to God, they're both equal.
It's easier. Oh, man.
So that's what he means. And all your deeds should be for the sake of heaven. Then there's actually a higher level. Sometimes we lump them together. King Solomon says in Proverbs, B'chol derachecha de'ehu, know God in all your ways. What's the difference? They're similar ideas, but there's a nuance of difference. When it says all your deeds you should do for the sake of heaven, it means you're sleeping, but you're sleeping for the sake of heaven. The sleeping itself is not heavenly. Sleeping is sleep. Eating is eating. But it's for a higher purpose, so that transforms it and elevates it. When it says to know God in all your ways, is while you're eating, you're focused on the divine aspect of eating. In other words, you're eating is a mechanism for you to appreciate God. You're studying Torah while you're eating, because eating has laws that tell you how to eat, when to eat, where to eat, what to eat. So while you're eating, you're focused on God. So then it's not just doing A in order to do B, which is great. A and B become one. So that's even a higher level. And that maybe ties in with what you're saying, that sleep is not just a prelude. You sleep so you have strength the next day to do a mitzvah. The sleep itself becomes a positive experience. It says when people go to sleep, if they behave the right way during the day, their souls enter up in paradise, and they study Torah with some holy people. I've told the story many times that there was this chassid, trying to remember his name. Okay, well, I'll remember it after we finish the class, I'm sure. So anyhow, this chassid, he was an older man, and older people get up in the middle of the night to take care of their bodily needs. And after he would get up, he would sit down and study for 15, 20 minutes. Then an hour later, he would wake up again, and then he would take care of his needs, and then he would study again for 15, 20 minutes. And this would happen like 3 or 4 times during the night. So someone said, why don't you just go back to sleep and wake up earlier, and why do you split up your learning all these times that you have to wake up? So he says, because when my soul goes to, when we go to sleep, my soul goes into paradise, and we're studying Torah together with Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, and all the great people. And all of a sudden, I disappear. I wake up. So when I come back, and they ask me, where did you go? We were studying Torah so beautifully. Where did you go? I'm embarrassed to tell them where I went. So I tell them, I went to study some Torah. I came to look something up. There's a story, a child wanted to know the difference between the proper approach to eating and the improper approach. So he calls in a peasant, someone who had a peasant's mentality, and he says to him, did you eat today? He says, yes. Why did you eat? I wanted to be healthy. Why do you want to be healthy? So I can go to the bar and have a good drink. Then he calls in a Jewish, simple Jew. He says, what, did you eat today? Yes. Did you eat well? Yes, thank God. Why did you eat? To be healthy. Why do you want to be healthy? What do you mean? So I can serve God. If you don't have that as your ultimate goal, you're going in circles. You're eating to be healthy, so you can be healthy, so you can eat or drink, so that you could go back in a circle. Everything you're doing is really going all the way back to the beginning. You're never really getting off the ground.